Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 33, another 7 curious interesting things I saw last week. So let's crack on. The first one is really interesting. So this is Grand Theft Auto turned hyper-realistic using machine learning. So what researchers have done here is they've taken a data set called Cityscapes, which is where researchers have driven around 50 German cities and they've taken the footage, and every frame they've then broken it apart and annotated so the computer can understand what everything is. So they've highlighted the trees and the buses and the cars and the lampposts and the buildings and that sort of thing. So the computer has essentially a database of what's going on. And they've mashed that up with Grand Theft Auto 5 footage. And what's remarkable is it's happening in real time as well. So this can happen in-game now if they wanted to do that in the next version, for instance. Now, there's some really interesting things going on here you might not sort of realise. Well, first thing you probably realise is the computer footage is quite bright, and then when it turns into real footage, quote unquote, it goes quite dull, because that's what the real life is about. And also, because it's a German data set, you look at the hill in the background, then all of a sudden it turns into a hill full of trees, because obviously a German data set doesn't really have a Californian desert hill in it. So some quite interesting things going on there, but it's really spectacularly transferred the data onto this footage. So I think that's really interesting. Second one, PairPlay, this is called. It's a lovely concept. So this is an app on the App Store, and it uses a really sort of cheeky use of AirPlay, or at least wireless earpods that can be separated. So what you do is you download the app, and two of you then can go through an experience. You have one earpod each, and what the app is doing is it's playing different audio to the left and the right ear, so that each person gets essentially a different story. So it's really fascinating, just made my mind break all the possibilities with storytelling on this. So you could do 2 different missions and somebody's got to run around the house and get something, or you can close your eyes, and when you open your eyes you've got to say certain words, and you can actually force people to have conversations in really interesting ways, or just even give sort of empathy to another view. So it's almost like sort of augmented reality for your ears, I think it was called at one point. So I thought that was really neat. I think it's available only for the iPhone at the moment, but it's on the App Store. Go and have a look. Really fascinating. Robot dogs. There's usually a Dinosaw with a robot dog every month or two. So this is the latest entry into the killer robot dog category. So we've seen, also Boston Dynamics have got theirs very famously, the yellow one. That's about £54,000 if you wanted to buy one of those, but you can buy it. And a couple of months ago I showed you the Alpha Dog, which I think was about £1,700. And this is even cheaper. This is by Xiaomi, I think is how you pronounce it. Never really said it out loud before. But this is only £1,100 and you can get this. So they're creating 1,000 of these. I think you kind of have to be a developer to get one at the moment, or at least you have to show that you're going to develop it and give it some feedback. But yeah, so it's open source, which is the cool thing about this. So thank you for David at work for showing me this. This is a good call. I like this a lot. Now it doesn't have all the whiz bang that the other ones have, so it uses primarily cameras to do all of its good stuff. But you can actually put LiDAR on it and all those sorts of things. It can carry up to 3 kilograms. So I've looked that up, and that is about 20 bananas, it turns out, or 3 iPads or something. Either way, you can put stuff on it. It's open source, so you can get it doing what you want. It can respond to voice, it can do all sorts of things as well. It does automatic obstacle avoidance, and by the looks of the video it can do somersaults and dance, and it's waterproof. So what more could you want? So head over to the website, look up CyberDog, and put it in your order. The PolyNetwork, there was a really big Bitcoin, or should I say cryptocurrency heist this week. $612 million worth of cryptocurrencies. So this is with the PolyNetwork. So the PolyNetwork are kind of an intermediary. They allow basically 2 chains to be joined together using cryptocurrencies. And somebody broke in, and somebody stole $612 million worth of cryptocurrencies, various things, Ethereum, etc., and then proceeded to give it all back. Obviously there was a little bit of panic for the first couple of days. Nobody really knows whether that was the intention all along, although that's what the hacker said was the intention. However, it's all been given back, give or take. I think there's a little bit that's still out. I think Tether or something like that was actually frozen by the Tether network, so it's not really up to the hacker to give it back. It's only when it's been released by Tether. However, a lot of the chat around this is really about, well, if there was some sort of regulatory overview of all this sort of stuff, then there'll be some sort of payback, or we could at least trace things. Because the crypto market, or at least the blockchain market, is decentralized, it's very difficult to actually put blame or track anything. So there you go. So that's a lot of the chat around this is about calling for some sort of transparency in the currently opaque crypto world. But there you go. So that was a bit of a panic at the beginning of the week, and hopefully it's all good. But obviously it shone a light onto security and the like. This is also a kind of cool story. So can an AI be credited as an inventor? It turns out you can, well, at least according to the Australian Federal Court. And also I think in South Africa as well. So this is an AI that can invent, basically, and this is called DABUS. And I won't really go into it, but basically what it's created, or what has been patented, are two things. One is a fractal food container, as you can see that funny star thing, so you can stack it together and it'll join together and it won't fall apart. Apparently it's really good for robots and stuff. And the second one is a sort of beacon, a flashing beacon. And it invented those things. As you can see on the right hand side, the inventor is actually DABUS. So the Australian Federal Court said it is actually okay for an AI to be credited with the invention, and it does not need to be a uniquely human skill anymore. So not so in Europe, not so in America. They haven't actually signed up to this. However, that's really interesting. So what happens when AIs start inventing and patenting things that we don't even understand, but they are essentially useful to AIs themselves? Will AIs self-regulate their own patents? Who knows? Very interesting. But yeah, so this has opened the door for at least the patent system to be inundated with things that are discovered by AIs. Twitter had a really interesting sort of hackathon. This was very open for Twitter to do. There was some chat a couple of months ago about, I think it was actually last year, about a student who'd found out or was trying to discover why the Twitter algorithm cropped images in a certain way, and lots of speculation, lots of sort of tweets about it, but nobody really could figure it out. People were getting close, you know, did it sort of prioritize people or white people or black faces or text or whatever it was, and nobody could really get a grip on it. So Twitter have opened it up and said, okay, well, if you can figure it out, and also if you can figure out what this means so that we can be more aware, then there are some prizes and some money involved. So you could also go and present it at DEF CON, which was last week as well. So yeah, so they basically ran a competition. They allowed people access to the actual code itself, and the winner found that it was actually, as I read from the side here, it was biased towards young, thin females, but also some sort of sub-biases as well. Some of the other people found that white hair was also a bias, and also anything sort of in a Latin, Western text would also be picked up as well. So that would over-index on things like American or American English or French or Italian, and not so much on Chinese or Indian, for instance. So there you go. So a little bit more transparency there, and more of this needs to happen. So big companies or even small companies opening up their algorithms for other people to try and spot the biases in them rather than relying on the company itself. There you go. And finally, this is really interesting. How do you hack the YouTube algorithm? So this is actually, you can go and actually click on the link, or you can find it. So this is DAPS on YouTube. And as you can see, 3 million views in less than a month. How does that happen? Well, what he's done here is he's crammed in 4 times the amount of content into one video. So what you do is you turn on the caption so you can actually understand it, because it's a little bit hard to understand, and then you set the playback speed to 1/4 of the speed, because he's recorded the video 4 times faster. So if you've recorded it 4 times faster, you watch it 1/4 of the speed. You actually hear it in, broadly speaking, normal, although the audio is very crackly because it's trying to cram in 4 times the amount, but there you go. But what the output of this is you actually get 400% retention rate, which is incredible because you're watching it 4 times longer than the actual video is, if that makes sense. So therefore YouTube think this is amazing, you've got amazing retention rate, and therefore it must recommend this video to everybody. So I've seen more and more of these trying to understand the algorithm of YouTube. Just when you understand it, they change it, so it's always a moving feast, but there's a really interesting experiment. Go and have a look at it. There you go. And with that, we are done. Hopefully that was useful. If you like it, check it again, join the channel, all that sort of stuff. So I will see you next week.